Hello, Minneapolis! All right, make some noise if you biked it all last winter. All right, the next few minutes are to convince the rest of you to give it a try. We're going to talk about clothing, we're going to talk about gear, and yes, we will talk about bikes. But we'll start with where most things start with me, a Star Wars reference. This is what most people think of when they think about biking in the winter. It was for me when I first started, trudging through a vast frozen landscape, dodging the occasional wampa. But as I became more experienced, I realized that that wasn't reality. This was reality. Winter cyclists are just people getting where they need to get to. They're dressed for the weather, but not an expedition to the ice planet Hoth, not a tauntaun in sight. I promise that's the last of the Star Wars references. But make some noise if you're excited for episode 7. All right. Now, before we get to the cool stuff, let's talk about safety. Now, there's nothing more or less dangerous about biking in the winter than biking at any other time of the year. But if we spend a little time thinking about safety, we'll ensure that we don't have a bad day, and your mom will approve. Now, if you're commuting, chances are at least some of that commuting is going to be in the dark. Visibility is important. Front and rear headlights are a must, and you might want to think about wearing a brightly colored jacket, or for the fashion forward, a high-vis construction vest. At the risk of touching the third rail of cycling culture, wear a fucking helmet. If you do go down, it'll keep your brain on the inside, which I'm pretty sure is where it belongs. The Swedish airbag helmet is optional, but cool. Now, like any other time of the year, you will encounter cars. To ensure that you're safe, if you need to take the full lane if conditions merit, take it. And for you motorists, if you're passing a cyclist on the street, make sure you give them 3 feet. They'll appreciate it. And that rhymes. There's an old Scandinavian saying, there is no bad weather, only bad clothing. The best advice I've ever been given about cycling in the winter is dress like you're going cross-country skiing. Lots of light layers you can remove if you do warm up, and you will. Winter is hard on bikes. You might not want to take your precious summer roadie out in January, but what bike do you ride? Well, that bike choice is going to be a factor of what kind of winter cyclist you turn out to be. If you're comfortable, waiting a couple of days for the city to clear the streets, you can probably get by with a beater. On the other hand, if no condition is going to stop you, you might be fat bike people. Full disclosure, I currently ride a fat bike. It's locked up outside right now, or at least I hope it still is. But until you decide if this whole winter biking thing is really for you, I steer away from spending real money on a bike. And that means buying used. I think we can all agree that bike thieves are the worst. Bike Index has a guide online about how not to buy a stolen bike. But the best way to ensure you're not buying somebody else's property is to buy from a reputable dealer. Let your Google do the walking. The Minneapolis Police Bike Auction is also a great place to buy a used bike. Whether new or used, a couple of accessories that I think are good investments are fenders and studded tires. Fenders will keep you relatively clean and dry in sloppy conditions, and studded tires will keep you upright on hard-packed snow or ice. One thing you're going to have to spend a little more time thinking about is maintenance. Like Neil Young says, rust never sleeps, and all that road salt and melting snow will do a number on your bike if you don't keep it cleaned and lubed. A couple of old toothbrushes make a handy chain cleaner. Other maintenance you're going to need to think about is trail maintenance. We've got a pretty active online community here that keep each other up to date on trail conditions. If you're on Twitter, @Minneapolis Biking is somebody you're going to want to follow. You can go do it now. I'll wait. It also helps when the city gets your back. This is Mayor Hodges' first official proclamation after being elected mayor. She's declaring Winter Biking Day on January 3rd, 2014, which is a pretty cool thing to do from Mayor Wonder Woman. And never underestimate the power of community. When the city of Boston got all that snow last winter, they plowed in a popular bike route. But the local cyclists, instead of going around or over, they went through, digging a 40-foot tunnel through the mountain of snow. And if you're looking for something more exciting to do than just commuting over the winter, there are tons of winter biking events. This is just a small selection. I'm a particularly big fan of the Fat Bike Berkey and Cable. The Arrowhead 135 is also on my bucket list. Also, the Twin Cities is going to be hosting the Winter Cycling Congress this February. After visiting Finland, Canada, and the Netherlands, this is the first time this meeting will be held in the United States, and I just found out this week that I'm speaking at it, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you don't need an expensive bike or fancy gear or high-tech clothing to enjoy winter biking. All you need is a desire to get out there and ride. That's it for me. I'm on Twitter. Good night.